All situated?
All good.
So Jack and I have this thing where, well, first off, we've been living together for the last 4 months. And prior to that, we hadn't hardly seen each other for 4 years while I was traveling in Asia. And since living together, it's been sort of like reliving our childhood. And there have been so many funny quirks and just patterns that we have. One of which is we sit in chairs the exact same way. And we put like one leg up and then we'll lean against that leg and have this contemplative look on our face as we're listening to other people talk. And we've had friends over for dinner and these just really embarrassing moments where all of a sudden one of us will glance at the other and see that we are in a perfect mirror position. And yeah, we're pretty much as close as it gets to twins, without actually being twins. One thing I would love to hear you describe is, for context, so for anyone who doesn't already know, and I know I will have already introduced this in this episode, but I'm a very dominant projector. I have desire, motivation, and as a kid, I was this very dominant, I mean, one could say I was a tyrant, a little toddler tyrant, but yeah, I was always like, this is what we're going to do and this is how we're going to do it. And Jack is a generator with only 2 centers defined, his root and his sacral. And Jack was my little minion growing up. Like, we were attached at the hip. And I never liked having dolls because I had Jack. And I would love to hear from your perspective, what was it like having me as an older sister?
So it's funny now in hindsight, like when you put it as the tyrant toddler, because that's exactly what you were. But like, I never viewed it like that at the time, because I was just like the epitome of just like impressionable little boy, just like curious with the world. And I was like a little yes baby. It's like, oh, Jack, you want to do this? Like, if you say it with enough excitement and conviction, like, hell yeah, I want to do it.
And that's my gift, is saying things with compassion or with conviction and confidence.
Mm-hmm.
That's my 4323 channel of, I know exactly how to say something to get people to also get on board with it,
Mm-hmm.
especially as a little toddler tyrant.
Yeah. So if it's like, hey, Jack, like, you want to stuff these blankets down your onesie and hop in the laundry basket and get pushed down the stairs, like, yeah, let's do it.
You want to wear my tutu and get dressed up and dance around in the living room? Yeah. We got into a lot of stuff as kids. It was so fun though. Like, we did it right.
Mm-hmm.
We had fun. And, one thing I think that's been obviously really beautiful for both of us to witness living together now as adults is just like reclaiming that childhood essence.
Mm-hmm.
And allowing ourselves to kind of like live like kids again, but do so in a more mature, more evolved way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also been really nice because our whole lives, it feels like we've just been moving in the same direction always.
Mm-hmm.
We both started having these sort of spiritual awakenings of a sort in our early 20s when we were both in the rat race, living more or less in New York City, partying every weekend, having a lot of fun,
Mm-hmm.
but also starting to ask ourselves the questions of, is this really what I want to be doing?
Mm-hmm.
And you're someone who I always use as an example, as someone who's found a way to really naturally live their design. And it's been really cool for me to watch as someone who, can see so many moving pieces and knows you so well, but the way that you've sort of fallen into your design without necessarily always having the language.
Mm-hmm.
When I discovered human design, I was so focused on me and my process and deconditioning. And, my approach was, all right, I can't do this here. I'm going to fuck off and go to Asia. It wasn't much about like, hey, Jack, let me tell you about all these things I'm learning. And so you went along that process yourself. And then as I started to step into the human design world from this more professional standpoint, it's like there wasn't much work for you to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love to hear for you what that journey has been like and how you've landed where you are now. Because again, for context, I would say that you've really built a life
Mm-hmm.
that is passion filled and purpose filled. And you're lit up by the things that you're doing, the things that you're creating. And that's something that people really want for themselves. It's like, how did you get there?
Mm-hmm. So a lot of different threads we could pull on here. I think like at its core, kind of my journey into just more self-exploration and growth and mindfulness and like all these related things that are now just such like a core piece of my being, like really began with like finding kind of like a void in my life where so much of like my adolescence and like early adult upbringing, I think like many people in our society, it's like so preconditioned where it's like, okay, you grow up in the suburbs of a city and okay, you're smart and you get good grades and are an athlete. And so you go to the good school and then, okay, cool. You study finance and math. Well, you should go in banking because that's where you make the money. And it was like, I never questioned these things. It's like, these are just inalienable truths. This is what I do. And then eventually I'd say it kind of started like just a small little seed of like doubt where realizing is like, is this really making me happy? And like initially going into the professional world, and like looking at the people around me, I was like, they don't seem happy. Like, are we all just gonna like put on this little face every day and like put on our clown makeup and say, I'm going to speak my corporate jargon and put on this, you know, little suit I don't want to wear and do that for 40 years and then, you know, find like an adequate hole to die in? I was like, fuck no.
That's so, but that was really similar for me when I started to just open my eyes and look around me and think, I don't want to be this.
Mm-hmm.
Is everyone seeing the same thing I'm seeing? Everyone's miserable.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's stressed. Everyone is just not fulfilled. And we're not talking about it. I don't subscribe.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like something now I've been recently like reflecting in some of my writing, but just how powerful of like a awakening moment that was like when I just like first stepped into the office, and then it's like my first week and my first month, and like so quickly it just hit me that I was like, I can't do this. I don't know why. I don't have like language to describe how I feel, but I know what I feel. And, you know, this was kind of like the ignition for starting to think about what does an aligned life mean, even though I didn't know I was doing it at the time. It's just like, okay, what interests me? You know, I'm going to start looking into that more. Like, okay, this practice feels good. Like I'll do that more. And then over time, yeah, evolved into a very multifaceted existence, but one I'm feel very strong and aligned in.
Yeah. And it's that everything you just said exactly. Like you didn't have the language for it then, but what did you do? You just started tuning in and thinking, what lights me up?
Mm-hmm.
What fuels my fire? What gets my generator engine running?
Yeah.
Without knowing that you had a generator engine.
Mm-hmm.
And what were those things?
So early on, it was, I'd say, first off, just my interest in like the Web3 crypto world, right? Where I'd be sitting at my job in banking, pretending to work, and then just voraciously consuming like as much content. Cause I was like, this is just like so intellectually stimulating to me. Whereas I think like someone who's very naturally curious and just likes to learn new things, it combines so many different topics that, yeah, I was just intrigued by. And so by way of like, yeah, seeing on any given week, I'm spending, 10 hours just reading like Medium blog posts and on Twitter, like trying to find people that I respect and looking to just soak up as much of that as I could. And then doing that enough, it's like, okay, well, this is a sign if I've ever seen one of what I should be doing. How can I get paid to do it? And over the course of, I mean, it took me a good 2 years where I'm still just slogging through banking. But the whole time I was like, I need to work in crypto. I need to work in crypto. Like, how can I do it? And then before I inevitably landed where I landed.
And what was that pivotal response moment where, okay, you had started to make these realizations of, this is where I want to spend my energy. This is what lights me up. I'm going to spend more time doing these things.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like a seed was planted of, I want to work in crypto.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a very distinct moment that you've shared with me before of this like opportunity, right? That you saw something from your external environment that showed up because, right, the strategy for the generator is to wait to respond, because it's only through the response when something physical shows up in the material world around you, even if it doesn't have to be a literal opportunity. It can be a sign, a synchronicity, but something shows up in the material world and your sacral goes, I want that.
Mm-hmm.
What was that moment for you?
So I think the one you're referring to would probably be chapter 2 of this story, of when I kind of switched from research into DD. Which we can kind of get into. So because I'd say when I was still in banking, like that was a bit more gradual of, okay, starting to notice this sensation rise, and then I would say gradual, but in the span of like a couple of weeks of like, okay, I need to work in crypto, and then started applying places, and then got a job, early stage startup, 10th employee in the office, research analyst. I get paid to do what I was doing already nights and weekends.
Question for you on that job.
Mm-hmm.
How did you come to that job? Was it through connections?
Oh, okay. Actually, another great side story. So it was one that I would just go to every meetup, every crypto event in New York City that I could find. Like, I didn't care what I had going on. I would leave work early. I'd make excuses. I would tell work that I lost my passport in Canada. True story. So I could take off a week. And ended up like meeting the team at Masari. And initially was like, listen, I don't need to get paid. Like, let me just work for free. And so for like 9 months almost, was just writing research for free. And then it was a fateful Saturday night when I am out and about, as a 23-year-old in New York City does. And it was maybe like 1 or 2 in the morning. And I get a text from a friend that was a tweet from my now CEO saying, hey, we're hiring for like a junior writing role. And he knew I was doing some part-time work. And he's like, hey, I saw this opened. Do you think like I'd be a good fit, or that he could connect me to someone there? And in my state, I'm like, okay, let me just save this for tomorrow so I can apply. And so I wake up Sunday all groggy, and I just like, I remember, wake up, kind of piece together the night, and it comes like 2 p.m. and I had a reminder on my phone that said, text Ryan. And I see that, I was like, who the hell's Ryan? I was like, is there like a girl I met last night? Like, I'm like looking through my phone, like no like new Ryan contacts. And then I was like, oh shit, Ryan Selkis, like, CEO of the company, Masari, like I need to hit him up about this junior writer role. And yeah, like that, again, sacral, yes, like just deep seated, like I need to do this. There's nothing in the world that is now more important to me in this moment than sending this message, because like this is the job I need to be doing.
Yeah. And that's the magic of these mechanics. It's that fire, and that exists for everyone in some capacity, but especially for generators. And it's about making the space to find that fire. Mm-hmm. And so many people just get stuck doing the same old. And it's so easy to just, you say yes to whatever comes your way, even if it doesn't really light you up. Cause you're like, I've got the time for it. I've got the energy. But what you're doing is you're robbing yourself of the potential to find that fire for yourself. Mm-hmm. And it's like, you went and you prioritized that, and you poured your energy into it, and you said no to the things that weren't lighting you up. Even if in that moment you didn't have the answer of, okay, I'm just going to quit my job. Mm-hmm. No, you stayed in your job. What'd you do? You fucked off early. and you found every which way to like cheat the system in a way, do the absolute bare minimum, exactly what I did at Deloitte as well.
Yeah.
Do the bare minimum. And with all that additional time and energy, you poured back into yourself, into your passion. And the reason I asked about connections is you're a fourth line, as am I. And the fourth line is the networker. It's the opportunist. All of your opportunities come to you from your network. And one thing that's really beautiful, because almost everyone in my family is a fourth line, my mom, my older brother as well, both of us. And we do have this natural gift of building community and finding good people all over the world, all over all the different walks of life that we had, and the way that they all kind of come back and provide us essentially with these opportunities, or even just with something to give us that response, to give us that, like, it wasn't you seeing that tweet on Twitter with this friend. It was someone messaging it to you from your network that provided that opportunity. So yeah, again, that's like, you're always such my perfect example of like someone who just did this so naturally to your mechanics. And look where it's led you, and look at this life that you've built. But I'll let you continue on with your story because it gets better from there.
Yes. So end up joining this company, Masari, and it's the dream job, right? I'm getting paid to do what I was doing nights and weekends, and write about it. And that kind of started a passion for writing. It was like so generative for me. But like, you know, a year goes by and like, you know, still researching, still learning. And I start just thinking like, okay, what I'm starting to actually enjoy more is like the conversations I'm having with other companies in the space where, okay, it's like from a research perspective, I'm trying to learn, but in the back of my head, I was like, would it be cool if we like work together, you know? And I would just like get them talking about what they're doing, you know, what's exciting me, and then connect them to like our head of business development, to then take it forward in case there was any like business revenue generating deal out there. And over enough of those, like I started just thinking, I was like, maybe like I'm best set for more of like a BD role. Like I like to think I'm smart, you know, was doing good research, but I was like, if I really want to find what I'm like best at, I was like, I think it could kind of be this like marriage of research where I can like talk the talk, but also use my interpersonal human skills. So I ended up like, talking to our head of BD, our CEO. She's like, hey, listen, I think, you know, I might want to start working in this capacity. Let me know like how I can maybe start like earning my stripes there or whatever. Right. And, you know, they said, hey, keep doing what you're doing, pass along the leads. Like, you know, if a spot opens up, like we'll let you know, but yeah, well, we'll see how it works out. And, you know, for the time that satisfied the itch. But I vividly remember the day when, funny enough, I was actually in Puerto Rico. So this was after I moved out of New York, it was nomading. It was my first stop, you know, was like, I'm going to go live out of a suitcase for the next 2 years. And
inspired by me.
Yes. I just remember like, you know, normal work day, and then see on LinkedIn, our head of BD posted like, hey, we're hiring like a BD associate role, yada, yada. And I just remember like being floored, just like that job needs to be mine. Like, I don't care what I need to do. Like I'm going into like, I will by hell or high water. And for the rest of the day, I couldn't even work. I was like, I need to go like clear my head. So I ended up going on a run. A good friend of mine ended up joining me, and we ran like 4 miles. I was like, all right, I need to stop and just think, because this is a pretty radical change. Like, do I really want to just say, you know, totally screw it to research and this job that I did genuinely love for this unknown? Because my whole life I was like, I could never be a sales guy. Like, hell no, am I going to do cold calls, anything like that? But how can I say no to that feeling from when I see that LinkedIn post? And again, I didn't have language to describe it, but it was like this felt sensation where I was like, if there's ever a sign to take, come on, Jack.
Yeah. And what did you do with it?
So got back from that run, pinged the head of BD being like, hey, let's chat tomorrow. And then that morning, had a talk, and he was like, all right, listen, like, you have zero BD experience. I'm kind of looking for someone that has, but you're eager. I know you're smart. So we'll give you like a month, like, test trial where, if you do good, we can make it full time. If not, you still enjoy research, stay in that role. And it was actually funny. Before I started, like, I'd put together like a presentation for what I was going to do during this month-long trial period. I sent it to him, and he just gives me a call on my cell. He's like, Jack, I just want to run some thoughts by you. Like, first off, I really want you to succeed in this, but I'm going to be honest, I don't think this approach is it. I think you should, like, go back to the drawing board, think of something else. Happy to give you some ideas. Because ultimately, like, I want you to crush this. I don't think this approach is right. I just remember, at the time, just having like this weird surge of conviction and saying, I think you're wrong. And he was so taken aback. He's like, dude, I'm like the one that's been doing this. Like, I know this better than anyone. I was like, yeah, I think you're wrong. I'm just going to go ahead and do this. And long story short, ended up working out and being like wildly successful. I was kind of like, hey, I think our product would actually be great for like hedge funds and VCs in the space, and ended up signing like 5 out of like the largest VCs 2 weeks later. And so it was funny. We stopped the month-long trial halfway through because he's like, you already know the answer. Like, we don't need to do this charade. Like, change your title. We're good.
Oh my gosh, it's so good. Yeah, and then you've been at it ever since, and just continuing to like grow and step into these roles where, it just feels like you're so aligned on this path. And I think something that's been really cool for me is I was absent during this time. I was only watching from afar.
Mm-hmm.
I was in Asia, and there's a 12-hour time difference most places that I was. So we would catch up every now and then. But was so cool for me to come back, and my exit from Bali was also very much tied to you, right? Our parents really wanted us to do a Christmas together, and I'd been, I'm so non-committal and had really leaned into like, I'm just doing me. I'm just going with the flow. I can't commit to anything. And you had, bought this house here in Puerto Rico, had been here for enough time where you started building this kind of community and really getting settled. And it just really naturally unfolded where it felt like my time in Bali like needed to come to an end. And I had this perfect transition point to a place where I could stay, get my feet underneath me, figure out where I want to be next. And, we never set any intentions for like what this was going to look like, how long I was going to be here for. But it was so cool for me to be able to come here and just see exactly what it is that you have built and the life that you've built for yourself. And I say this to everyone, but like I've gotten really comfortable being alone, and my human design very much requires a lot of solitude. I'm a second line projector, and I need a lot of alone time. And to this day, there is no one that I can exist around as well as you, where it feels you're the only human being where it feels like I can still be alone and at the same time be sharing space with someone. And I think there's so many elements as to why that is, just growing up, our history together, also our designs, and like you just being this very, like, you don't have this very strong dominant energy to you. And it's just easy. And we're both quad right, which is something we've been talking a lot lately. If you look at your human design chart, there's 4 arrows near the head, and those arrows either face left or they face right. And Jack and I are both on the very end of the spectrum of being right, which is a bit unique. We come from a very left-centered world. Left is all about strategy, about routine, structure, focus. And we're very right, which is more this receptive, this open, this kind of inconsistent way of being. And I think that's a big part of why we were just such a pair when we were young, because they tend to find one another and stick to one another, like mechanically. And I don't know where I was going with that, but I guess to circle back, I obviously went down a little rabbit hole. It's been very cool to come back and just see the life that you've built here. And one other thing that I think is cool that I would love to hear from you about is there's been kind of now this like offshoot of like, okay, you've done this crypto thing now and it's felt really good. And then there's like that little itch that comes back. I wouldn't call it a void like it was in before, but this itch for something more expansive. And I guess I'll just let you kind of talk into that. But I think it's so important to recognize that even sometimes when we find something that lights us up, there's always room. Like you never know where life is going to take you. And like when you start to get an itch, you have to scratch it. And what's that itch been for you lately?
Yeah. So it's funny because it actually, there are parallels to, you could call it like a void in a sense where, so, after I went from research into BD, it was like my day-to-day was writing every single day right now to having a shit ton of calls, talking with people, and everything. And there was like a little bit of a void, obviously not the soul sucking one from banking, but like just from no longer being able to convert like my thoughts and my inner world into the externalized world through the written word. And it was something that like I was trying to grapple. I was like, okay, like what is this void? Because it started out just as like something is missing and I can't figure out what. And it ended up being during the pandemic where I was alone for the first time in like literally my entire life, because you think about through like college, my days in New York, is like I was living with 3, if not 4 guys in a house, and things are just always going on. And so it's like you always can stay occupied. So there's not much time for contemplative thinking and reflection. And when I was in Florida in our parents' condo, initially went with our mom, and then she left, and then like it was like I was alone for a couple of weeks. And it just, when it came to, okay, like what is it like outside anything in this material world, like what do I want to be doing? I realized it was like, I want to just start writing. It was like, I've never been someone that journal. Really the only writing I had was through my job. Like before that, I studied finance and math. It was very quantitative. And I started just trying to put words to these sensations of like, okay, what is this like little void I feel? And that just opened up like an absolute world of expression and like newfound fulfillment through being able to just think more clearly about like, who the hell am I and what am I doing in this world? And so, yeah, that very gradually developed just into like a daily journaling practice. And then it was like, okay, I kind of want to write more long form. So, started a blog and would put something out every like 4-6 months, not frequently, all the way now to a more consistent like weekly newsletter where I was like, it's not even like a passion or a hobby. It's truly something I can't live without, where I noticed myself like getting in ruts and I'd be like, oh, why am I in a rut? And then it's like, oh, I hadn't written in a couple of days. And it'd be like time and time again. I'm like, it's just like always the case.
Yeah. What's actually really funny, I didn't realize this until now, but that Florida condo has been very expansive because that was where I had my like wild awakening when I discovered human design. The first time I ever spent a weekend alone. Also, because again, I was just grasping at straws at this point, understanding that I was, stressed and that things weren't aligned. And I was living out of a suitcase, working this corporate job, traveling all the time, staying on people's couches. And I was like, I think I just need to spend time completely alone. And I went to that condo, had a weekend literally to myself. The only people around you are above the age of 60. Yeah. So you're really not interacting with much. And I remember I went on the beach and I was just walking the beach, listening to podcasts. And just so happened that one with a human design reader came on and I stopped on the beach. It was sunset and tears started coming out of my eyes the girl who hadn't cried in 10 years.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's something here. So
very interesting, because our grandparents owned that place for a while. Like our parents honeymooned there. It's like that has a rich history in the Purdy lineage.
Yeah, I also have a lot of weird old memories from when we were there. We'd go on vacations.
Yeah. That can be an interesting foray just into the importance of space.
Yeah.
Physical environments.
Yeah. Well, even before we get there, I think, but let's table that. Yeah. Don't let me forget. With your creative, with the writing, it was also a really interesting journey that you went on to decondition the belief that you had. You know, I've been going through the same thing of you're not creative. Right? Like there were these identities that were placed upon us, conditioning, right? When we're very young, we're most susceptible to the influence of our environment, and our environment over and over again, whether it was family, school system, teachers, whomever it was, you know, it was that we're the Purdys who are athletic and we're good at school and we're not creative. And we just took it on. We were like, yes.
Yeah. Like that is just a piece of our identity. It's a, you know, unquestionable truth.
Yeah. And it's because it's like you go back in the school system is this incredibly homogenized approach of this is how we do these things, right? This is what, like you go into art class and you have to follow certain rules and there's certain assignments and you have to do the assignment in a certain way. And for us being quad right, as I mentioned before, we're not here to follow any structure. We're not here to have a specific focus. We're here to just take it all in and be receptive and just allow whatever to come out. And that was not, that's just not how our world works. And we're the most deeply conditioned to be strategic because we are so not strategic. You know, the last person you want to have on like a survival camping trip is quad rights. Because we are not designed to like plan in advance and think through all the possibilities and have an agenda and like make sure all our bases are covered, which is why both of us have gotten ourselves into some pretty tricky situations, which could open the door to a whole number of other stories. And yeah, it's like that homogenized way of being really suppressed a lot of our creative individuality. And I think now these last few years for us, it's been this deep reclamation of that and working those trust muscles and breaking down those constructs, and how that's opened up so much in your creative expression as well as mine.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's something like, you know, like many things, like I sort of discovered through writing, even this idea of like the fundamental nature of creativity, where, you know, I've held this belief of, okay, I'm not creative, but then, you know, coming sort of to the realization that like creativity at its core is taking something that wasn't there and making it so, right? You are creating, and every human has the capacity to do that. Right? Like for some people that flows more easily, but like the whole notion of not being creative, I think is just fundamentally flawed. There are certain like barriers that, you know, exist, whether, you know, your parents told you weren't creative, whether you just like went to school and decided, oh, I'm just going to do what all the other kids are doing and I don't get made fun of for wanting to do art or play the clarinet. But yeah, it's like we all have this rich, diverse inner world that is unique to us that no one else has, right? You think about just like a reservoir of life experience of all the people you met, the relationships you've built, the places you've gone, the thoughts you've had that make you, you. And all creativity is putting that in the external form. And that can take a myriad of different approaches, and it doesn't matter. But like the sole act of like creating, in my opinion, should be just like a practice that everyone does, be it writing or poetry or music or dance. Like it truly doesn't matter. Just finding a way to alchemize that you into some material form.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, you know, what would have been so beneficial for us as kids, and again, we don't know what we don't know. And it's like our parents, our teachers, they only do what they know and what they've been taught. And it's, you know, no one person's fault of anything, but, knowing what I know about us now, it's like, had we just been given an environment to just explore and be creative without any expectation of what it needs to look like, I think that would have unlocked so much within us. Because the moment it's like we try to, even in our class, they're like, okay, we're gonna do drawings of people, and it has to look like people. The moment I start doing that, I'm like, mine look like silly little stick figures. I'm not doing it right.
Nah.
When, that just wasn't we're trying to fit ourselves into a box when we're a circle.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's like we're very lucky to have had those experiences, because it's pushed us onto this journey for ourselves. And now we, as future parents, right, we get to do things differently. And we do now have these tools and resources to understand that we're all incredibly unique, incredibly different. And there are different ways of doing everything. And if we just equip people with the right environment to just be themselves and be creative in whatever way that looks, everybody wins.
Spot on.
Yeah. But I guess that also does translate into environments, which we didn't want to speak about, right?
Did it point a question there?
Is there? Well, we've created this beautiful environment here. And it's been so nourishing.
And I guess from my human design perspective, right? Because my physical place is mountains, and kind of on a little mountain here. We're situated in suburbs of San Juan, in like a very like hilly neighborhood, and my house kind of happens to be on the very top. So it's like I look out on my balcony, like I have vast open space and rolling hills to look out of, which just like has always been something that clears my head, that makes me feel like at home, comfortable. I think it's the same reason why it's like, I swear to God, 99% of any of my blog posts have happened on an airplane, where it's just like I'm looking out the window and it makes neurons connect in a way that is conducive for my creativity, productivity, like all these things. But I always like need that elevation.
Yeah. And that was an early one. When I first started sharing human design with you, that was one aspect we locked in on really early. Was the environment, because just for context, if you're not aware, there's 6 different environment types, and we all have a unique environment that's going to be most nourishing for ourselves and our energy. And Jack's is mountains. And the definition of an environment, it's not always literal. It's not like Jack must be on a mountaintop at all times in order to be happy, successful, satisfied, right? But it's like the archetype, and what does a mountain provide? And it's this, for you, it's like a passive, this elevation, separation of sorts, a lot to do with, again, the elevation, the lack of oxygen in a sense. And that was also a huge part of your creative process of like, it was these mountain environments that propelled you. Like you would get great insights that would turn into blog posts. And whenever I think you need to recharge, whenever even you need like to recalibrate your energy, you go and you find a mountain.
Yeah. Be it, in the end, is it the Himalayas or
you can do it anywhere. But that's been something, that's so profound and positive for you. What's the most recent like mountain experience that you've had?
Well, so it's funny, the last two, like over the last year, I've not even consciously now, I'm just thinking this on the spot, but the last one was Rishikesh in India, foot of the Himalayas, like, right in this kind of mountainous environment. And before that was in Peru, both ones where I was able to get out there and plop down, over, these just like epic sceneries with, a paper and pen, and just have very deep, conducive environments towards an environment that is like highly generative for me.
Yeah, exactly. And this is the beautiful thing as well, is even live your design. Like it's not going to be rainbows and butterflies all the time. Just because you follow your strategy and authority, or your right environment, whatever, like it doesn't. And even if you're on a path where you're really lit up by the things you're doing, like we're all human beings, and there's always this binary. There's always light and dark, and you cannot run away or hide from either and only choose to see, the good. But what something like human design provides is like, it gives you tools. It gives you these little tools. So you know that when you are going through something, you know how to navigate that something.
Yeah.
And maybe for you, it's like finding your mountain, finding your tree to sit against where you can write your thoughts out and like alchemize and work through whatever frustration is coming up or whatever resistance, whatever darkness even. And those tools look different for everyone. And I guess I would ask, what other tools do you have? Like, what are the tools in your toolkit to keep you feeling aligned, to keep you feeling centered, to keep you feeling like you're connected to yourself?
So I'd say like my mindful meditation practices have been absolutely central to just who I've become. And, you know, it's one of the things where at first I was like my foray into meditation was, you know, through like the personal growth lens. You know, I absolutely loved Tim Ferriss in college. And it's like, okay, he interviews with all, you know, the most successful people from all these different walks of life who like found like true life success, right? Not just like the, you know, CEOs and hedge fund managers, but artists, the bodybuilders, musicians, like whoever. And the most common thread right across hundreds of people was a mindfulness practice. So for 19-year-old Jack, it's like, okay, well, successful people do this. I want to be successful. So if I do that, I'll be successful. And it's funny looking back now, it's like, it feels like the wrong reason or like motivation, but it opened up a world that has now just been like so core now to me of being able to have this contemplative practice that, you know, it has had its like ebbs and flows and has transformed over the last almost decade now. But it's something where just having that space to really separate myself from my thoughts, from, you know, a lot of what happens in the external world, and like, just like peel back the layers and be like, what's there, what is still sticky, what is alive for me right now, and then be able to come out of that experience feeling like I have a better grip just on my reality.
Yeah. And I think what's so important about that for you is being someone who is so open in your design. So you have 7 undefined centers, right? You look at Jack's chart and he has just these 2 defined centers at the base of his chart, and then it's a lot of openness. And what that means is, he's very sensitive to conditioning. Like you take in a lot of energy from your environment. And if you don't have those practices in place to be able to discern what belongs to you and what doesn't, then that conditioning is what's going to rule your life, right?
So that's actually, And one of the things that before I had any of this language, like I always kind of knew that it's like, yes, I'm impressionable. Like, you know, there's a component of like people pleasing in a sense, but it's like, you know, mostly stem from like, I love people, I value human connection. And so like my natural tendency is to like adapt what I see around me. And, you know, it's like, okay, you go to a university where, you know, it's all these like Northeast prep school kids. So, you know, I'll come back from college wearing like vineyard vines, berries, right? It's like such a trite example, but I think is like a good kind of just look at being impressionable in that sense, but then kind of going like the mindful route and realizing it's like why do I do the things I do, and actually having like space, right? Like my environment, like, you know, meditation is actually one of my mountains. Like, and now being able to be more discerning with what is it I'm actually taking in, and how can I be more intentional and selective by trying to put myself in places that do feel authentic to the true Jack that I'm now discovering through this grand old process.
Yeah. And the gift, right? Like when I say someone's very open and they're impressionable and they're easy, like sensitive to conditioning, it sounds like it's this bad thing. But it is such a rich gift, because the way that you intuit and like the information that you receive from your environment when you're around others, it's like you get a sense into what's really going on. So long as you can discern what belongs to you and what doesn't. Because the difficulty is when you take in maybe those ideas, you take in that direction, and you take in those emotions, and if you attach them and start to take action on it instead of taking action from that felt mechanical response, that's what pulls you off of your path. But meditation for you is like, it's that container where you get to say like, okay, where are we right now?
Mhm.
What's present here? What belongs to me? What can I kind of shed? What can I let go of?
Yeah.
And another reason I think that, your meditation has gotten so strong is because, yes, you entered into it from this like mind approach of they're doing it and I want that, so I'm going to do it, almost that strategic lens.
Yeah.
But the reason you've been able to make it stick is because you found a way for it to be enjoyable to you, where it's like you are excited about entering into your practice. And the way that you've done it is basically by letting go of all of those strategies and constructs of how it should look, like the focus, like, okay, I need to quiet the mind, I have to do this, right? That's the left way of doing things with us, with these right brains. Like, the more we can just enjoy and surrender in everything in life, and all the practices, even in the gym. It's like going to the gym without this like itinerary of this is what my routine's going to look like, and just being like, no, I'm going to pick this up and then I'm going to put it down, and then I'm going to decide what I'm going to pick up after that. And you've done that with your meditation.
Totally. And yeah, this honestly has been like a rather recent development, but one that has been super impactful where, a lot of my meditation practice is like, okay, you're starting on like an app like Headspace or something, right? Just like great, just foray into this world. It's easy. It kind of shows you just, here's how you watch your thoughts. But for me, it was like, okay, I'll sit down, I'll do 10, 15 minutes of, breath focused, mindful awareness meditation. And started to see benefits. So I was like, okay, I feel a little bit more focused, concentrated. I think I have a better grasp of my emotions. Like, I'm doing it. I'm working. It's working. But over time, it's like, it started to just be a chore. It's like, this is something I have to do every day because I want to be more focused and mindful. And just subconsciously, like, there just be resistance because it was just another thing to do on the checklist. And so, you come up with a dozen and a half excuses of, well, actually, I got to get on my laptop early, so I can't do it this morning. And like, whatever reason, it kind of falling out of a consistent practice. And it wasn't until I almost took a first principles approach of, like, how can I make it the most like enjoyable practice? And if it's like, if your sole directive is enjoy, and it's like, you sit down and whatever your mind wants to do, if it wants to get distracted, let it get distracted. Right? If it wants to just sit in pure, unadulterated nothingness, let it. And over time, it became something that was just so delectably juicy for me. It was like, it's like I genuinely look forward to it. It's like I wake up and it's like, ooh, I get to just enjoy being and an existence for nothing else, just because. And that was like so freeing, and something like now I'm starting to feel like the transferability from the practice on the cushion itself to just like waking life of like, what can I do in this moment to enjoy, and have that be like the guiding kind of like compass of, what do I do in this moment? Right? It's like, do I go read a book? Do I go call my parents, catch up? Or, there's always things like we feel like we should be doing. But if you just step back, it's like, what feels good? It like sounds so simple, but you realize most people don't do that. Like, most, you look at yourself, it's like, I always have these shoulds, these ought to do's, and just preconceived notions of what a effective or productive or mindful person should do.
Yeah.
So
it's so simple, and it's so fucking powerful. Right? And how many people complain about their lives and how unsatisfied they are, and then you have to ask, are you doing what feels good?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they'll say yes. And I'll look at them and I'll say, I don't know if that really feels good. I think you're just numbing.
Yeah.
Right? It's the drinking or buying things. And I'm like, but after you do that, do you feel high? Do you feel like and it sustains and you're on a good place? No, it's like this ebb and flow, the crash and the high, and it's numbing, and it's these like dopamine hits. You gotta find what's actually alive inside of you. And sometimes to get there, you really, not sometimes, always, in order to get there, you gotta go through it.
Mm-hmm.
right? But it's like everything in life. Like you want the best, you have to work for it.
Yeah.
And that work looks different for everyone, but it's just in deep exploration and excavation of self and going inward and building a relationship with yourself and getting to know these mechanics and working with them, actually taking action on them, like living them. That's a big difference I see in people that are really authentic in themselves, whether they know the human design language or not, is that they're taking action that's in alignment with who they are, right? There's so many people that get stuck just learning, listening to podcasts, learning all these things, but then they're never actually doing anything with it, right? And that's everything. It's a lived, real experience that gets the results. And it's also through the experience that then you get the feedback. That's the only way you know, like, oh, this does feel good. I know it feels good because I did it. Or I thought this was going to feel good, and then I did it, and it didn't feel good. Oh, maybe that's my sign that it's not right for me.
Yeah.
Like gets you into your body, which is like, we are 9-centered beings. We are no longer the human beings of the past couple hundred thousands of years, right? We have evolved, we are more complex, and we are here to be in our bodies, to make decisions, not from the mind, but to our own inner authority. For you, like your gut. For me, my emotions, like understanding that the wisdom lies in the felt experience, and we've got to get out of the head. That's not where we live our lives from. Use your head in your business. Use your head, like again, to continue to write and toward external things, but like living your life. Get the heck out of there, man.
Can't have that be your compass.
No. So I guess to wrap things up, because I mean, we could talk forever. We got stories for years. But what are some things that are exciting you?
Yeah, I think just more of like my writing. Like it's been such a gradual process from the journaling to the blogs, and then finally to this newsletter, and then starting. I was like, okay, I'm actually going to start doing this weekly, and now it's like, how can I create like my message in its like most complete, succinct form? So now like taking this kind of intensive writing course. This guy Jack Purdy, Write a Passage. It's like a very comprehensive, just course really to get out like what is your message that only you can uniquely bring to the world. And so I think it's like a lot of these different ideas we discussed around life, alignment, work, purpose, and just having it be something that can really encapsulate like me and as like my life reservoir of experience into a story with a message that matters. So
mic drop. I thought I was the talker in the family. Jeez. And how can people connect with you? How can they read this incredible newsletter?
So you can find me on Twitter at jpurdy17. Usually share a lot of thoughts, musings there. And then the newsletter is The Life Examined. It's also linked on my Twitter bio.
We'll put it in the show notes.
Yep.
Very good. Great. Well, keep on generating, man. Yeah. It's very lovely for me to be coexisting with a very satisfied sacral as well, because I get the benefits of that.
We look forward to the next one.
Heck yeah, there will 100% be a next one, because that was fucking fire. Okay, bye.